welcome to TWIL. This week I'm learning. This is episode 28, and this is the podcast where, the shit's made up. Except it's really not. It's just lightly researched. And we're all having fun. So episode 28, recorded 12/19/20. This year is almost over. Not that much is going to change, but I digress. This is going to be a good episode. I'm your host.
Taunting the gods of the universe. It's almost over. Nothing's going to change.
Suck it. Bring it on.
I mean,
I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
At least it's not raining. How many more of these can we throw into the title sequence? I'm your host, Brandon Vader. Down below me, Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. To that direction, Charlie Stiffler, also known as Mjolnir. And down in the adjacent corner is Seeker4761, also known as Colton Roper.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
To me. My bad.
I miss the days when you didn't know who it was going to be. I miss those.
After
I could forget, but then I wouldn't be a very good host because I would be pretty heavily inebriated at that point.
After 6 months,
Unfortunately, it's etched in.
we almost have a decent podcast, guys. So
Yeah.
we're getting it.
Yeah.
Almost.
One episode at a time.
I'll drink to that.
As will I.
I've got some vitamin D that I can just chug, I guess.
Please don't.
I mean, mine is technically yellow orange juice.
You
Mountain
drunks. You drunks.
I'm not drunk. It's Mountain Dew.
Drunks.
The number one ingredient in Mountain Dew is orange juice. Concentrated orange juice.
Extremeness.
No.
Extreme
I had a
gamer.
coworker ruin that for me. You know who you are.
A Bang, which is actually really good. Bang? Y'all ever heard of Bang?
Yes.
Fucking
I've heard
delicious.
of Bang
I'm
Cock.
drinking the cotton candy version because I'm a man.
Actually, that sounds awesome.
That shit is way too sweet.
Cotton
I did
candy is
try
actually my
the-
favorite flavor.
Tastes better.
I tried the blue raspberry and it was
Fucking
just
monsters.
it was sickeningly sweet.
Says
Monster
the guy
Rehab.
drinking Mountain Dew.
I needed a little pep after today's work. It was a 10-hour day.
Yep.
Doing some OT.
Yeah.
It's good for you. Keeps you honest.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
better.
and at least it won't be like my 12 or 14-hour day coming up next week. But we're already off the rails. Let's get back on the rails. So, we're your hosts. This is the show, episode 28. And Cody, this week, is going to tell us about how crashes are interesting. And I'm assuming not just for the ooh.
I guess that too, yeah. Colton is going to tell us that two dudes can stay high for longer than the U.S. military? Okay.
I couldn't think of a good one,
I
so
could
I
see
just
that.
went,
Yeah,
drugs.
I've lived in
Anyways.
Gunnison before, so yep.
Yeah. Charlie. I know what it's about, but I'm going to say what you wrote because we have to appeal to the children. Charlie is going to tell us how Uranus smells like farts. And I feel
Truth.
dirty just saying that.
Good. As you should.
Ew.
And Brandon will tell us about a mythical world, without passwords.
But how does that smell, that world?
Not like farts.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Cotton
like
candy.
brand new electronics.
Cotton candy.
Ooh.
That is the best smell in the world, is opening a new like laptop box or tablet box and just
Just
new electronics.
casually snipping the end of
carcinogens.
your phone.
It's up there.
Not my phone. My phone's 3 years old. Mine does not smell good anymore. It smells old and outdated and sad.
Yeah. Same here.
My Go still smells new.
Oh, I guess my.
Now it's a ghost.
There we go. My Hero 9. Sure.
TWIL, the podcast where we sniff electronics.
How does this hero smell?
You know, I actually thought about
Like a camera.
writing when I did that USB-C article, saying like, you know, how does this? But I didn't want it to be a review. I wanted it to be an article, and I was like, well, if I was gonna make it a review, I'd be like, what are my impressions on the look, the feel, the
I still
sound?
think
Does it create any
You
sound?
are allowed
Does
to
it
do a review
touch?
of that.
And then taste and smell.
That is a review.
Yeah.
Why?
Like, that's okay.
You really should do a review.
You don't have to be a
I know
industry
I can.
expert.
I can, but
Oh,
I decided not to.
fair
Maybe
enough.
maybe later. Maybe some other thing. Anyway.
Okay.
All right, Cody,
Well,
start us off.
tell us about interesting crashes.
So October of 2019, back when we were all so naive, there was an airplane that crashed in Unalaska, otherwise known as Dutch Harbor, Alaska, incidentally. It is called Unalaska, Alaska. If you watch Deadliest Catch, you will be very familiar with this town. Well, it was a Saab C2000. I forget. That's probably one of the most important things, and I forgot it. But the details of the NTSB investigation have finally been released. And oh boy, sifting through them is awesome. Like, you get to learn how the braking systems of the aircraft work. It's really cool. Like, it is cooler than I ever thought. There's some security camera footage of what happened. So let me describe what happened, and then I'll describe kind of going through the material. So the aircraft took off from Anchorage, flew to Dutch Harbor. It did, on approach, their alignment was a little bit off, so they did a normal procedure, which is called a go-around. Basically, like, we're not going to attempt to land wrong, so we're going to go around and land right. It's basically throttle up, go around, and then try again. So they had a headwind. Actually, I'm not sure if it was a headwind. There was a 30-knot wind. They didn't say specifically headwind, or I missed that. That's entirely possible.
It was a diagonal wind.
And then
Could be crosswind, you know.
Yeah. They touched down, applied braking pressure, so everything's normal. It was braking. Then suddenly it was not braking, and they overran the runway. When they overran the runway, in many parts of Alaska, the runway is, you know, a mountain on one side, an ocean on the other side. Unalaska / Dutch Harbor is no exception to that. And they ran over the runway, over a grass berm, through a chain link fence, which when they hit the chain link fence and a sign that ironically said low flying aircraft, or had a little symbol that said low flying aircraft, the prop on it got detached and went, basically all the little pieces flew off the prop, and the blades flew off the prop, and then it came to rest with the nose in the water, just the front landing gear in the water and the rear landing gear on the land, and kind of like teetering over the hill. Luckily, shallow water. However, unfortunately, when the blades of the prop came off, one of them went into the cabin and caused fatal injuries to one of the passengers. There were 4 passengers that were wounded, and 1 fatality. There were 39 passengers aboard and 3 crew members aboard. So sifting through all of this has been really, really, really interesting and would take longer than I have in a week for sure. Just learning about the parts of the aircraft. They actually have the, like I said, security camera footage that I'll put here to show you what that looked like, the final few seconds of it, as well as the flight logs. So they actually had the flight recorder in text form, so you could actually read everything from Anchorage all the way out to Dutch, including the go around and landing and, exit over wing, which way to exit, calling the emergency crews and stuff. So that was fascinating to go through, and it was interesting to see how the NTSB actually went about doing some of the things. Like, they actually had people walk the runway in 2 lines in order to find pieces that fell off the aircraft during landing. So what happened, at least this is what they're saying is the most probable cause of the incident. It's always, whenever there's an airplane crash, even though this is an overrun, still kind of considered crash, it's never like one thing that goes wrong, because aircraft are built so that you can deal with one thing going wrong, at least. So what this was, is it was a tire that it had a flat spot on the tire, but you weren't seeing the structural threads, so it was noted and logged, but, still, according to this, safe to fly. But that, coupled with a wiring harness that was installed incorrectly and 2 of the cables mixed up, caused the braking system, the anti-slip braking, to not apply on that. So when the aircraft touched down, it basically, when it hit that spot and rubbed, the tire lost integrity and then caused it to slip down the runway, essentially, and not be able to brake properly.
Lock the brakes, basically.
Yep. Yeah, so that's... There's just so much information in this. And again, I took about 5-6 hours skimming through all of this to see it. So it's cool. I mean, I'm really sad about the injuries and fatalities. Those are definitely serious.
What made you get interested in this particular incident?
So interestingly enough, I saw this because, Alaska, when there's a plane crash, and this was Penn Air, which was a subsidiary of an airline I like to call Raven, because they need to buy a vowel, because RAVN, which actually went bankrupt in April and then got bought out by somebody in California that is resurrecting it, but has, for some stupid reason, decided to keep the retarded name.
Why is that retarded? It's
RAVN.
clever.
No,
There's probably already a company. No,
name it something else. You don't like your airline is too poor. It doesn't need it. Like,
Cody,
I'm sorry.
E's are one of the most common letters in the English language. They're expensive.
So let's just omit them. Let's omit them. Why not?
God, if it was like Ravens with an S, God, no wonder they went bankrupt.
Or a Z, if it was like made by the emo
that's
kid.
How,
and yeah,
that's how.
Ravens.
That's in 2020. Ravens
or X Raven.
Cool.
Raven X.
Either way,
of all the things
E.
to be angry at, the E's.
I don't know. I personally, like, when I fly to Anchorage, I can choose to fly by a VAL airline or another airline called Grant, and I'll always choose Grant if available. Even though they fly a smaller plane, they fly a Cessna Grand Caravan versus the Dash 8, which you could argue it's safer to fly the Dash 8 because it's twin engine versus the single engine Cessna. But it's more fun to fly the Cessna. And they're such a cool airline. Like, if you arrive like 10 minutes before you're actually supposed to depart, they'll still let you board unless it affects all the other passengers. Whereas by a vowel, they are excessively strict on their timings, and if you don't arrive an hour before departure, you're not getting on that flight. Also, the safety record of by a vowel calls into question. I've got a friend that does not like them as well, and they've had previous incidents where one of their pilots forgot to put the landing gear down before landing in Homer.
Yeah, they forgot to put the E in their name. I mean, of course they're going to forget to land. It's okay. It's what you expect when you go with Raven.
Landing gear just had too many vowels.
I was going to say they couldn't afford the E
A
in
and the
gear.
I. Can't lend a gar very well.
But yeah,
Peter.
this was before my big trip, or one of my big trips last year, and so I was just intrigued by the crash itself, and it made the news here. It was actually a pretty big story. But yeah, now saw that they had, I think it was on the 15th or 16th, they released the docket of information.
Oh, Raven. It's kind of interesting. I just did a basic search of Raven companies. Turns out there's a company called Raven Industries, which makes precision agricultural products, and they do actually put the E in it. So Raven was already taken, Cody. But although it's interesting that this Raven Industries, their DAO name or whatever is RAVN. So that's kind of interesting. just to annoy you just that little much more, Cody. Yes, twist it in there. I love it.
Just a little more.
I think I'm just gonna find all these like hip new companies with their cool names, like Lids with a Z, or does that have a Z in it?
Yeah, it's a Z.
Yeah, Lids with a Z. See, it's a hip place, not Lids with an S. That's like totally 90s, bro. Early 90s before it got all hip and dangerous with their spelling.
Lids.
Liz.
They employ bees, I guess.
They need jobs too. They're suffering, man.
Well,
Somebody else.
Colton, tell us that two dudes can stay high for longer in the U.S. military.
Not in,
it's not
than the U.S. military.
Yeah, it's not as interesting as that. There's no drugs involved or anything like that. I just couldn't think of a damn funny, clever title, so I came up with something generic and silly. But I guess I have a question for you, Cody, because I'm going to kind of hone in on your expertise a little bit, kind of in your territory here. We're going to keep it the theme of flight.
Okay.
But Cody, what is the longest commercial flight in the world in terms of time as of now?
Do you mean now, or do you mean like previously?
Let's just say
now
2020.
that it's no longer available
As of
now?
March 10th.
So there was Project Sunrise, which was doing
Not
flights.
an actual flight yet, not official. I knew you were going to say that. That is not an official flight.
Crap, they just talked about one. I think it's so the longest reoccurring, because I know that there was a one-off flight, but the longest reoccurring flight was a Singapore Airlines flight from.
You have the company, right? You have the airlines, right?
It was JFK. Yeah, I think it's JFK to
Wrong
Singapore.
city.
Newark?
Yep.
Okay.
Newark to Singapore, 18 hours and 30 minutes. As you said, that is it Qantas, or is that how you say there? Is it Qantas
Qantas.
Airlines or Qantas?
Quantum.
Probably Qantas.
Qantas.
Okay. I don't know. That Project Sunrise that we're talking about, New York to Sydney, is 19 hours and 16 minutes, but it is not available to the general public. So
And
technically,
London to
but not
Sydney,
really.
Too. They were doing it.
Right.
That was the other part of it.
Going with that, maybe this is for everybody. What is the longest military bombing run in history? Continuous flight.
Oh, that would be.
It is from this
the B-2 bombers leaving
right plane.
The East Coast. I believe it was Edwards Air Force Base, going and bombing Iraq and Afghanistan, and then coming back directly.
Wow.
God, that's actually exactly correct. B-2 bomber, piloted, or a crew of 2, flew for 44.3 continuous hours before landing. Very good. Fuck.
Did you know that there are not any sort of reclining options in the seats of a B-2 bomber, and so they literally had like that trifold metal lawn chair in the back, like behind the seats in a little flat spot they had, in order to be able to lay out and actually get some sleep.
The B2 has like extra room in it?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, there's a small cabin.
Yeah, there's enough space to stand up and stretch your legs. That's it.
Wow.
I didn't know you could stand up. That's actually interesting. Huh. Well, keep that
And isn't
space
there
in mind.
Isn't there a small toilet on board too?
Yes, there is a
I was
toilet.
gonna say, like, that's $1 billion aircraft. That's a
Actually,
lot
$2
of
billion.
expensive electronics to clean up if a pilot has to go.
So for people who don't know their aircraft, the B2 is the flying wedge with the little triangles on the bottom. It's the stealth
bomber.
Yep.
Yes, the plane that doesn't really look like a plane.
Featured in
But it is
the plane without a tail.
Independence Day.
Weird ass looking plane, but a cool looking plane.
What other movie?
Very
was
beautiful
the
plane.
Broken Arrow.
Yeah, Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow. It featured that and a pretty realistic rendering of the cockpit too.
Yep.
So, you know the longest commercial flight as of now, the longest military bombing run. Do you guys know what is the longest continuous manned flight in all of history?
Are we counting dirigible?
We're talking
Oh,
one airplane constantly flying.
Airplane.
So not
But-
a blimp or balloon.
Yeah, an airplane, yes. An airplane can be refueled, cannot land for any amount of time, just constantly flying.
Is it? Was it the Icarus, the solar plane?
Not manned.
yeah, that wasn't manned.
Has to be manned.
I thought that was no. Okay.
I know
No, that was
there
just-
was
Yeah, there's
flight
some drones that could stay up
recently,
for,
but
like,
not
I think there was a
beating the
drone that
40
could
hours.
fly for 9 to 10 days without even a refuel or anything like that. I think there's solar powered ones that are designed to stay up there for fucking months at a time.
Yeah.
But those aren't manned.
Okay.
So, any guess as to how long? Just to guess for starters. Just throw out a number. What do you think?
72 hours.
Okay.
I'm gonna go a week.
Okay.
Why would you keep somebody in a plane for
World record.
just for a world record? I'm gonna go 52 hours.
Okay. And I should have clarified you can have more than one pilot. So we'll say so Charlie's thinking about a week. Okay. That's a long time to fly for a plane. I think that's a very long time. But let me tell you guys a story. So in 1958, a slot machine mechanic named Bob Tim, real name, awesome name, convinced
Never trust a guy with two first names.
Bob Tim, named Bob Tim. He convinced the Hacienda Hotel, which is building a new hotel in Las Vegas, to grant him $100,000 for a publicity stunt. I guess the Hacienda Hotel, really nice hotel, but it was built pretty far off the strip, so it had issues. Actually, they thought it was gonna have issues actually keeping people in it because of how far away from the strip it is. Like, so that's one of the big things about the strip is you could just stay in a hotel and be there forever. Who knows? So he actually convinced them to let him buy a plane with that money and basically put the logo of this hotel on the side of it. And his goal was to go for the longest continuous manned flight in history at the time. Well, still is actually. So he used that money. He bought a single engine Cessna 172. He fitted it with a brand new engine, as well as a bigger gas tank. He modified the oil lines so you could actually put oil in as the engine's running. He also outfitted it with a sink and a mattress. So custom Cessna single engine plane. So on December 4th, 1958, Bob, Tim, and another pilot, an actual professional pilot named Jim Cook, took off from McCarran Airport in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they didn't really come down for a long time, longer than a week. Spoilers. They stayed around Las Vegas, flying around for a couple days just to make sure there were no mechanical issues or anything like that. And they flew south and stayed in the desert. I think it was kind of near a dry lake bed area, flat area, and just flew around for days and days and days. So you're probably wondering how a single engine, even with the bigger gas tank, how the hell a single engine plane is supposed to stay up in 1958. So this plane was actually refueled twice per day by having the plane come down within 12 feet of the ground and fly next to a fuel truck that was driving in this particular area. So I guess they brought down a hose with I don't know if it was the pump from the bottom or the top, but they brought down a hose. The pilot and the driver had to stay at the same speed, and twice a day they'd fill up the plane, and then they'd go around again and do it again, twice a day. Food and water and other supplies were exchanged, obviously, as well. I guess one thing that the Hacienda Hotel did, which is, again, a very fancy restaurant, they actually, like, one of the main meals they made was like a T-bone steak that they grinded up into a thermos, handed it, and basically they threw the damn thermos up to them, essentially. So 1958, remember. So
have your minced meat.
Eat your blended steak. So obviously, thinking about how small a Cessna is, for two people especially, it was incredibly difficult for the pilots. Just incredibly difficult. Each flight took about 4-hour shifts for flying. Boredom, exhaustion, and the constant sound of that fucking single engine were essentially driving them insane.
You know, actually, with really loud engines, I gotta say, when I was doing commercial fishing, that was the best way to get sleep. Like, that diesel engine just put me to sleep so quickly. So
okay, now imagine doing that every day. Every day.
And a diesel engine has a lot lower noise.
And it's also 1958, so there wasn't any like fancy. There wasn't any real creature comforts in this particular plane, besides obviously the sink and the mattress.
Don't know the boat I
Yeah,
worked
you
on.
also weren't trying to sleep in the engine room.
Yeah,
Actually,
with right next to somebody else.
the engine was right below where I slept. Yeah.
Wow. They didn't like you.
It was
You were the FNG.
no, it was all of us slept there anyway. But
So
I don't think the engine was probably the worst part about it. I think the space was
now
probably
think of
the
it-
worst part.
I would say this is a 1958 single engine airplane, constantly bumpy, very loud, and constant. So to give you an idea how long this is going on, around day 36. So this is longer than a week at this point.
Yeah.
Jim Cook, we're not done. Jim Cook, the professional pilot, actually fell asleep at the wheel due to the fact that obviously they're tired as shit and it's boring. Even they're just flying around in a circle. He actually fell asleep at the wheel while Bob was actually sleeping as well. And luckily their autopilot took over and it just flew in a straight line towards the Mexican border for almost an hour. So for an hour, there was no pilot actually piloting this particular plane. That's just what, apparently this kind of thing happened multiple times. But what's interesting is around day 39, the generator itself that actually created electricity failed, and the pilots had to finish their attempt without heat or light or autopilot at this point. Day 39. So they pushed through, because you know what? They're getting close. They're only 11 days off of the record at this point, because the record at this point was 50 days straight of flying, which had actually been, it was actually set in September of 1958. So apparently this was a big deal. I mean,
Holy
around this
crap.
time, I know. After World War II, a lot of like records were being broken. That was a big thing for people to do because, well,
A lot
whatever.
of people
It
knew
was-
how to fly. A lot of aircraft that they could just throw away. Yeah.
Just a slot machine mechanic. How different is from running a slot machine to freaking flying an airplane? It's the same thing, really.
I mean,
So they kept going. Without heat, without light. They kept the same thing. Twice a day, they would refuel. They'd go in the air. They'd keep doing it 4 hours at a time. On day 60, the engine of the Cessna actually started to die because this particular single engine Cessna was not designed to fly for 1,400 hours straight. They kind of need a break. But it kept going. But it was starting to chug a little bit. It still could fly, but they were starting to get a little worried for their safety at this point. So on February 7th, 1959, they finally landed this plane after 64 days, 22 hours, and 19 minutes of continuous flight.
Holy crap.
That's
Blew my
crazy.
fucking mind. Yep.
Wow.
What was the
So-
other plane that they did the record in?
Same kind of plane, like just a single. Because the only way because you can't like air to air refueling wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of was, but obviously,
Yeah, so you
a
can't have a plane
civilian
that's
couldn't
too
afford
big,
it.
Otherwise,
And the
then
Cessna,
you'll-
you can't really afford a plane that could do it. Then you also have the issue of, well, how are you going to refuel and get food? So you have to slow down enough to have a dude in a fucking truck throw a goddamn thermos up into you. And you get a quart of water to shave, because apparently, again, it was the 50s, so shaving was an important thing, even in the fucking plane. You gotta look good. So, kind of interesting. So, no other person or people have tried this because no one has been crazy enough to try it. Like, they interviewed Bob afterwards, and he was saying there's no way in hell I would ever think about doing anything like this again. I would rather be strapped to a fucking, like, bed, constantly talking to my therapist to try to talk me out of doing something so stupid. But they did it. And it's... why the hell not? I call that ingenuity. That isn't... they didn't have the fancy
Yeah.
fly-by-wire systems. They didn't have the efficiency. They just had an engine, and a dream, and apparently $100,000 and something to do for 2 months. So that's what I learned.
My hat's off to them. Mainly because
Yeah,
Don't
let's-
wear
Yeah.
hats, Cody.
But yeah,
Impressive. Much thanks to the YouTube video the channel Half as Interesting, which is like the secondary channel of Wendover Productions. So very fascinating stuff. I just happened to see this, and then I fell down the rabbit hole of research. So it's kind of cool.
yeah, I love HA.
I wonder if they have a book about that experience. That'd be a really interesting read. Or audiobook. Listen.
Or really,
I think it'd be
Yeah.
Day
Day 25.
17.
We flew some fucking more. So, just one last little tidbit. They roughly flew about 150,000 miles in a circle.
That's
So
crazy.
multiple times around the planet, just constant like that.
If they didn't, like, in a way, if you didn't have your pilot's license before that, you would have enough hours for it after.
Oh, totes.
You have enough hours for a commercial
Yeah.
captain's license.
Yeah,
See, you just have to break the world record.
that's
we
like
can all do
That's
it.
like the
Yeah.
big leagues. That's not, flying Raven.
You know it would be fun if one of us just got crazy rich, buy a Catalina, refit it for in-air fueling, and just
Would that
See-
be fun?
See, that's actually
that would be
pretty
fun.
damn close to my $1 billion retirement idea, which is I want to get a PBMY 5 Mariner, of which there are none, or a Martin Mars, which of there are 7, and 6 of which are currently converted for firefighting. And since they can hold about 38,000 pounds of bombs, you convert the 2-story fuselage into a flying houseboat. That's my idea. You can
Yeah.
have it.
see. And then you get a Starlink satellite dish for the top of it, and you've got internet. We can have just LAN parties and just.
I was thinking, like, in terms of like boredom would be the hardest thing because they said that they were like reading comic books and
they probably had people
and
put
all they
throw them
fucking
newspapers
did
and stuff up there.
But like,
oh yeah,
I think it'd be, I wouldn't say it'd be easier, but I think it'd be a little more. It would be better because you could just like binge literally everything. Just
Yep.
fuck.
And
You don't even have to have a Starlink. You could probably be on like cellular if you're low enough. I mean, shit.
You'd burn
Well,
through
you
that
know,
data
there's
cap.
something to be said that we've survived quarantine,
Unlimited.
so I'm pretty sure
yeah.
we could figure something out.
Yeah, totally. Like, staying home is the exact same thing as being up in the air for 64 days.
If you think that I wouldn't bring my computer set up on that plane, you're dead fucking wrong.
Oh, there'd be
Oh,
a
yeah.
laptop. There'd be you could it would totally be an enjoyable, almost an enjoyable experience.
it would
You'd
be
be internationally known, so you'd probably have shit sent to you. You set up a GoFundMe, so you're making money while you're just flying around. I mean, shit.
I will stick to my, flying like
Do
an
some live
A350
streaming.
or something, or a 747. I would do that in a
You're
747.
snooty for. But how do you get food? How do you get food on board? Fuel would be a problem.
MREs.
It's
MREs. You have enough
water
payload.
then.
Yeah,
You have enough payload.
Yeah, 747 can hold a lot. Of
I
stuff.
guess if it's for one person and you fill
No,
up a
it-
747.
Well,
It would
no,
have to
you'd
be like a
have-
team
you'd
of
have like
6.
a crew of 4. Yeah, 4.
Yeah,
to
a team of
6.
6.
You
So
can do it.
2 on, 2 sleeping, 2 backup.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
we just need 2 more that we trust. June,
and cubes.
Ben, Christy, Alexis.
Coobs?
She doesn't fly.
Coobs?
Coobs.
Hey, we'd have her on
He's
Overwatch.
a mechanic. We could send him out on the wing if something broke.
Fix it. Fix
And
the
plus,
cubes.
you'd have 4
There's
engines rather
something
than
on
1.
the wing.
I think, like, if we're talking how long a 747 could stay in the air, isn't like Air Force One kind of the
And
Ultra endurance
like
version?
maybe the closest like real life situation that could do it?
yeah. and
So
I don't
there's
know.
For like
Actually-
not for that long. I think it's like 2 weeks or something like
So
that.
there's actually a bomber. It's called the Peacemaker, and it was when I actually talked about this back when we were talking about mini nuclear reactors. It had a 36,000-pound nuclear reactor, and its props were run on the reactor. So if you want to take if we could design a prop plane with a nuclear reactor, think of it like a Mars rover or a Pluto satellite. They have to put nuclear in them. So, yeah. Just have to create an entirely new plane, and then we can burst the rocket, or burst the record. No problem.
Oh, so once we get that sweet podcast money, boys, we're first thing I'm buying. It's the
Right.
billions of dollars needed to build a new type of airplane.
Yep.
So,
And to convince the government to let you fly a nuclear reactor around. Good luck with that one.
would they shoot you down? I don't think
International
they shoot
waters,
you. Just
maybe.
you just keep flying over city space. I don't think they'd shoot you down if it's a nuclear reactor. I mean, they would, but I'm just saying there's ways
Do it
around
in the
that
most
particular
threatening
problem.
manner possible, and they won't touch
Just-
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of threatening
Circle
manners,
DC.
though, yeah, you could totally do it. They'd shoot you down still.
Yeah.
They don't care.
It's threatening.
But like I said,
smells.
threatening of threatening things. I'm gonna assume you're talking about the planet. God, I hope you're talking about the planet, Charlie. But tell us what smells like farts.
Well, I mean, being honest, does all of Uranuses smell like farts? I mean, yeah. That's my topic. That was my whole topic. Just that one punchline.
That was 60 hours of research,
like
guys.
Bleaching or something now at this point.
Now, all right. Yes, we are talking about astronomical aromas.
Ooh. You're
Sorry,
fucking
puns.
hilarious.
Puns continue. All right, so the Gemini North array in Hawaii is sometimes used to determine the chemical composition of atmospheres, rocks, asteroids, comets, planets, all of the things. based on spectroscopic signature. So basically, one of the things we know from Cassini and Gemini and all the other probes that have gone out there is that Jupiter and Saturn's upper atmosphere are made of ammonia. Which, for those of you listening, if you don't know what ammonia smells like, it smells like cleaner / cat piss. One of the two. I mean, really.
Windex.
Yeah, potentially.
Don't mix that with your bleach.
Yeah, that'll cause chlorine gas.
Death.
That's bad.
Death.
Yeah,
Bone
so
crossbones.
basically, by shining a telescope at Uranus and looking at the light that is broadcasted back to us, it basically creates a barcode of light. You have to separate it into the different wavelengths, but specific atoms and molecules absorb and emit specific wavelengths of light. So by separating lights in all the different wavelengths, the gaps in the barcode, so like you have the full Roy G. Biv, actual gaps in the wavelengths will appear, and that will accurately represent, as long as you know which gaps live in what part of the sequence, it'll tell you the chemical composition of the atmosphere that you're looking at.
What's that called? Spectroscopy? Spectronomy? Something like that?
Spectroscopic, spectroscopy is one of the ways of saying it. Mass spec is the shorter, more Abby Trudeau way of saying it.
So, just to clarify, what is it? Each atom will absorb a certain wavelength of light. Is that?
Yeah. So
that's what the gap is.
Basically, if you were to shine light at hydrogen, it would block a very specific, which I don't know which specific wavelength it blocks, but it would block a very specific wavelength in the Roy G. Biv. And it would, as long as we know what wavelength it is, we could then infer, based on what we're seeing with the light, what is in the way. So oxygen, hydrogen, all of those things. As I already said, Jupiter and Saturn are mostly made of ammonia in their upper atmosphere. And hydrogen sulfide is the major component of Uranus's upper atmosphere, which is why it smells like farts.
Yep. Or bad eggs.
Bad eggs. Does anyone know the name of the chemical additive they add to natural gas to smell bad?
Hexafluoride or something?
Nope.
Sulfur or something?
Nope. It's called mercaptan. And mercaptan is a very noxious substance. And you only need 1 part per billion to create that overpowering rotten egg hydrogen sulfide smell. And about, 9 years ago in my career of EMS in Aurora, Colorado, I had a gentleman accidentally spray himself in the face with about 3.5 gallons of mercaptan.
Did it burn his sinuses to nothing?
No. They had to put him in a medically induced coma.
Jesus.
It very bad. Very, very bad.
Whoa.
They hosed him down with an 1.5-inch fire hose for 30 minutes. We treated him for hypothermia, and we shoved alcohol prep pads soaked in Vaseline, or not Vaseline, but Vicks VapoRub up our nose so we wouldn't vomit. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I can only imagine what it would be like to smell Uranus.
I'm such a child.
Yep. So what's interesting, though, is that one of the places they've tried to do this and actually had a very tough time is Titan. So Titan, being one of the moons of Saturn, has one of the highest chances of actual non-Earth-bound life in our solar system. It has the necessary building blocks. It also has a lot of carbon-based decay molecules like methane. So the problem is when you attempt to use spectroscopy on Titan, you get overlapping information. So there's so many different compounds that they're picking up that some of them overlap in what they cover in the spectrum. So what they've had to do was create what they know, the methane, nitrogen, and they basically created a atmosphere in a box and added small substances until they could actually get the identical signature from what they're seeing of Titan. And that's how they had to kind of do the reverse engineering on how to figure out exactly the composition of Titan's atmosphere.
So we've created Titan's atmosphere on Earth.
And about this big.
Yeah.
It's enough for something to live in.
Yep.
Now we can bring
Potentially.
life back from Titan.
Now, I believe life on Titan will happen before a world without passwords. Convince me I'm wrong, Brandon.
It's already happening. So, let me pull up my notes because you were a little quick to drop to me.
wasn't prepared.
I was not prepared. I wasn't.
So I wonder if
Normally I can see the end times coming, but I couldn't when you were talking about Uranus.
Go!
So I wonder if this is like face pass would be my guess, like just more biometric type stuff.
A little bit of that, yeah. So imagine a future where you don't have to use passwords, at least none that you directly know.
Can imagine
That's the future. You past, yeah. So this is the future where Microsoft is pushing us towards, and honestly, I think it's kind of a beautiful future. So if you've recently purchased a new computer or have reimaged, like I am often to do, reimaged a computer, and you use the Microsoft Authenticator app on your phone, you'll notice a pretty huge change in that process. Now when you sign into your Microsoft account during the setup process of that new computer or reimaged computer, you're told to open your Authenticator app and tap on a specific number. You no longer enter your password when you're signing into a new computer. You go through the Authenticator app. You never type in a password. So like on my new Surface Go 2.
Single factor authentication, but the better part of the single factor authentication.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have already thought of why this, I don't like part of this, and it's
Okay.
kind of an edge case. It's because of the ruling when you are allowed to give up biometric information. Like if you're charged with a crime, they take your phone. If your phone is secured with your fingerprint, they are allowed to take that and put in your phone. If you have a password, you do not have to give up that password. So in a way, this type of scenario is much less secure. It's more secure in a lot of other situations, but it's less secure in this situation.
Right. And that's why if that's something you're worried about, you set up your device that way. For instance, I've got
It's got to be in front of you.
disappearing. Yeah.
It's the best phone.
I want to know
Invisible.
about that technology.
Yeah. Invisible.
Invisible cloak
Samsung Galaxy Note S10 or Note 10 Plus. I can do words.
Doing great.
And with it, I have it set up to where on the initial boot, so when you first turn it on, you have to enter the PIN. You cannot just enter your fingerprint. Mm-hmm. You have to enter your PIN. Not that I'm particularly worried about getting seized by the police officers and then being like, ah. But in some sort of weird circumstance, all I have to do is power the phone off, and then they can't get it back on.
Yeah, this is like the argument of if you have nothing to hide, why hide it? And it's
Right.
like, that's... yeah, we covered this a little bit in our privacy episode, too. But that was my one, like, insta-gut reaction with this. So please go on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Okay.
state that.
Yeah. So with the new way you do things, you can just use the phone authenticator app and log directly into Windows, and you are up and running and going. I know at work we just went to multi-factor authentication with the Microsoft Authenticator app because we all have Office accounts. And so now if we have a new sign-in for our work, anything involving our work multi-factor authentication, we have to approve it on the phone. So I think the amount of times that I enter my work password, like when I first started the job, it was probably 30 to 40 times a day that I would enter a password and enter a password and enter a password.
Shit adds up.
Oh, yeah. Now, I think to log into my computer, I have the password. Any of the websites or resources that I access once I log in is all done through just going, do you approve this sign-on? Touch my finger to the fingerprint reader on the front of my phone, and I go. So, it's... To me, it's a lot easier. And you can create a lot more. It encourages you to create a much more secure password as your back end, because then really when you're using the device every day, like on my Surface Go, I don't even touch the thing. It's got the Hello
Windows Hello
camera in it. So I open it up, point it at my face, and I'm in. I'm good to go. And at least in my testing, if my eyes are closed, it won't log me in. Because that was one thing I was kind of like,
So if somebody gouges out your eyes, you can no longer access any of your information.
I think at that
Still
point
enter
you've
a
got a hell of a lot
password.
bigger issue.
I need to play.
I was
need to log
thinking
into my
more
shadow.
That I can't see.
I was thinking more that my son is a sneaky little child. He's very intelligent. So he can't just decide.
He's not going to walk into your room while you're sleeping, point your device at your face, unlock
Exactly.
it, and walk away.
Exactly.
I call that the nosy ex-girlfriend. I need to look at where your texts are, and point it at my face while I'm sleeping. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing I thought was funny is 2 or 3 years back, there was an HP computer where in the actual like advertisement for the computer, this laptop, the kid grabs his mom's hand and puts her finger on the fingerprint reader, and then he starts watching whatever he was going to watch on like Netflix or whatever. And to me, I was like, that's bullshit. Like, I don't want my kid doing that.
Yeah, that's a
Now,
weird
granted,
thing to put in a commercial.
in the commercial, she was smirking like she knew it was happening.
Yeah,
it was more that the
But
technology
still.
was on display. That look, you can just touch a finger and it works. At the same time, well, most consumers are dumb anyways.
So what you're saying is that there is not going to be a world free of passwords. There is going to be backstopped passwords with some sort of biometric in between.
Organ harvesting is going to get a lot more serious with, people from Nigeria and India trying to steal your information.
Well, so what I think is eventually we're not even going to know the password for the device. I think eventually we're going to get to a point where when you sign up for an account, it's going to utilize biometrics and it's going to automatically give you some 128 character long randomized password that then it associates with your biometric data. I think that's where we're going to, but we're still not there yet. So yes, right now you do still know the password. You set the password up, and then you're using these other methods for your actual sign-in process.
Some
And
local randomized password on your side, enters it in. I think you probably have to do some combination of like a fingerprint along with Apple's Face ID, their technology, like combination at the same time makes it significant. Two biometric fingerprints, quote unquote, is a lot more difficult than just one.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the stuff from
Well, in one
Alien Resurrection, where they were like on something to make it the doors to make them open up and stuff. Like that's
also
the worst
in
case
Star Trek Discovery.
Oh yeah, that's like the worst case for COVID. Like imagine spreading that on that ship.
You know, going back to COVID, if they can theoretically capture like what a cough is, who's to say the technology can't be good enough that they could discern between a voice, an actual human voice created by vocal cords, versus a copied human voice that is created by, well, an algorithm or whatever.
I've seen enough
just
movies.
A recording.
I've seen enough.
But it wouldn't be the same.
Right.
Yeah, it's like deep fakes now too.
Nah.
Yeah.
We might have to get to a point where it has to be a touch-based,
Tom Cruise.
not a. So, have you ever tried with the Windows like Hello and stuff? Have you ever taken a super high-resolution screen of your face and put it to see that if it will?
I have not. Other people have, though, and that's why it requires an IR camera. It's actually looking for that infrared data along with what your face looks like.
Created by a heat source, actual 3D, being able to discern like a nose versus a. I think it can be done.
It's
well
still
enough
possible
eventually.
to fool, but that's I want to see like
And as
Mythbusters, or no, unfortunately they don't exist anymore. But somebody like that, Mark Roper, to do something like that.
Yeah.
Although he believes in the good of engineering, not to try and. Well, I mean, he does glitter on people.
White hat hacking is important. You
Yeah.
can't know how secure your system is unless you try to break it.
Very true. Yeah, I would be very interested in that too, and I'm sure there's always going to be some way to fool it to get in. But I mean, usually at that point, somebody would have physical access to your device, and there are way better ways than trying to get it to unlock, to get it to spill its secrets.
I believe the great movie Face Off would be how you beat it.
I'm sorry.
Face Off.
Did you
Get
just
your
say
face
the
off.
words,
The
the great
visual
movie?
masterpiece that is Face Off.
Let's
The
forget about like
epitome
man in the middle
of
of a network attack
of cinematic
Like I said, organ
Mwah,
harvesting,
beauty.
but harvesting people's skin, their index fingers.
Well, I mean, so
At that point,
one of the
goddamn.
one of the movies a lot of people talk about when they're talking about like future technology is anyone want to take a guess?
Orville?
Demolition Man?
The three shells, so we don't have a run on TP anymore?
Hey,
That's
I'm
gonna
gonna
be a
say
current movie.
that like this place, the bum gun. Seriously, it's the best. Like I know everybody from the U.S. and the Western world is gonna be like, "Oh my God, water!" But the bum gun is so much better than toilet paper.
I have a new idea for Face ID. We were talking earlier about how like OnlyFans is getting more accepted and stuff. So I'm just saying, maybe one day you'll just have to bend over, open up them cheeks, and you got yourself a scan.
It's gonna be
Rectum
based
damn near
off
killed
of
him.
scent too, or something.
Spectroscopy.
I think we're done
Uranus.
here.
Terrible.
Are we done?
Yeah. I think we're almost done. Let me just shoot some statistics. Oh, I never actually said the movie. It's I can't freaking remember the name, which is why I was asking you guys. I was really hoping one of you would guess it. Minority Report. Minority
Yeah.
Report.
Yep.
When he has his eyes replaced and he's getting all the ads for the donors. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I mean that's eventually going to kind of be where this is at. That's like
It's
the
like
dark side that I
cyberpunk.
see.
At
Too.
that point, like,
Yeah.
Jesus. How valuable?
Yeah.
I mean, I know data is valuable, and there's certain people's data that's way more valuable, but I mean, obviously, we could talk about hacking in this particular week of all, but I don't know. Going that
Yeah.
far.
Low-hanging
have a-
fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some quick statistics for you. An estimated 80% of cybercrime attacks are directed at password hacking, or password cracking specifically. And that's according to the World Economic Forum. Also, passwordless usage in the Azure Active Directory is up more than 50% from last year, with more than 150 million total passwordless users in Azure Active Directory. On the consumer side of things, compared to 2019, which your average or your 69.4% of your Windows users were using a Windows Hello, it's now up to 84.7% of all consumer users are using Windows Hello rather than traditional password. Now that includes PIN. So if you have a PIN set up, that is part of the Windows Hello.
Okay. Then yeah, I absolutely buy those statistics. Because I was gonna say, like, I could see the mobile users, but yeah, like you say, with this specific camera that requires it, I use a pin at home, but I don't, obviously. This Logitech C270 piece of crap is not, FLIR.
Which, did you know you can actually buy a Windows Hello rated USB webcam?
It doesn't surprise me.
I didn't
Yeah,
ever.
All you need is FLIR and a camera.
No.
I like how you call it.
I thought it was
FLIR and
interesting.
not
It was.
FLIR.
Flare.
I thought it was interesting. It's like,
It's almost like you're
maybe.
leaving out the vowel, Cody.
FLIR. Yeah, it's FLIR, right?
It's pronounced FLIR
Oh,
and has been pronounced FLIR for 40 years.
I didn't know that. See, I learned something this week.
There you go.
I knew everything else apparently, but I learned that.
Well, and I don't know if it's actually a FLIR camera or if it's just infrared and then a standard camera lens too. But yeah, I kind of went down the rabbit hole as I was reading this article because one of the suggested articles was suggested ways to add either Hello camera or Hello fingerprint to any computer. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot you could totally buy a USB fingerprint reader and attach to your desktop. I don't really see myself doing that, but I had been thinking about getting an upgrade for my webcam. And I was looking at the Brio anyway, because it's a 4K webcam and it's Logitech, so can't go wrong. It has Windows Hello built into it. It's also a $200 webcam. So it will not be anytime soon, but...
So in other words, next episode.
I mean, I know I'm bad, but no, not next episode.
Gotta wait for that money.
I
After we build our plane, guys. Come on.
I
Priorities.
have my one expensive toy for the year.
Yeah, but the
For
year
this year.
ends in
I was gonna
a week and
say.
a half.
Fun.
All right.
Yeah,
Take us.
absolutely.
Take us.
Play
home.
us off.
Play us off. Dun, dun,
After
dun,
we-
dun, 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 dun.
Yep, Tatooine.
Well, yeah. Colton, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me as a contributor to thetechpirate.net. You can also find me in the gaming world as Seeker4761.
That's how many days he hopes to defeat that 1958 record by.
God.
Oh,
We got to build our fucking plane first, guys. Come on. I
over
keep
10
saying.
years in the air. Now, in a dirigible, I think we could do that. We could totally do that.
If it was big enough.
That's some
like
Star
I said.
Trek shit right there. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but if we're not on like out of this planet doing that, that's way too long. Cody's gonna miss the beaches of Kasamui too much.
Fair point. Well, as I said, Seeker4761 on Facebook Gaming, YouTube, Twitch, and probably a few other places. Hopefully, I'll be streaming, having started a new series for Hades. The top-down isometric kind of game looks pretty interesting. Maybe make a little series out of that. It's on the internet, so I better start doing it. And Charlie, what about you? Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube, and I'm still writing my article for the Tech Pirate. I have 12 days. I can do this. Yeah. So YouTube, Steam, Facebook, all of the socials. Milnor, Charlie Stiffler, Cody.
You can find me on YouTube at Striving to Fail. You can find me on. I'm on Instagram, but I forget who I am there. So I don't know.
Have you put a picture on Instagram yet?
I have. I actually have some of my flight stuff. There's a few pictures I'm actually really proud of that I've got. Like there's this one picture that. Anyway, you get the point.
Check it out yourself,
This
people.
isn't all about me. Yeah, check it out. I haven't given you the name, but try and find it. It'll be fun.
Engagement challenge.
I'm gonna get doxxed.
People are going to be
All
showing
right.
up at your window. I need pictures.
All right,
Brandon.
Brandon, take us home.
And I'm Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis on certain games like Star Citizen, which is what I'm doing directly after this podcast. I'm going to go try some rock mining in a
rock.
keep wanting to say Merchant Man. Mercury Star Runner. I really want the Merchant Man. Can you tell? I'm a contributor on the Tech Pirate. I am terrible at contributing. I need to do more. You can also find me on YouTube as thetechpirate.net. I missed uploading a day 14 update of my 30-day challenge with the Surface because of technical issues revolving around said Surface, and then also forgetting my camera at work a few times. And yeah,
Either way, it'll be an interesting article or
Day
21.
14-ish.
Yeah.
Day 14.
yeah. So I'm going to do a day 21 update on Monday that is also going to include my day 14 stuff that I have now successfully recovered. Yeah. So that one will be a little bit longer. That will be coming out Monday-ish, as long as I don't have any more
Technical
technical
issues.
dilemmas.
You shot some more B-roll, right, Brandon?
I did. I shot a lot of B-roll of me playing two particular games on a very interesting setup that was, revolving around my Surface Go.
Nice.
So, yes, there will be more B-roll and less looking at my face jabber-jawing. Because apparently everybody gets enough of it on this show.
How you doing?
How you doing? So, Thank you all for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at THISTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, as always, you can send an email to twil@thetechpirate.net. We will see you all next week.
We're also on Pandora. Bye.
Are we really?
Yeah, recently.
Damn.
You didn't
Do you
see
not
it in production
read-
this week?
Do not
He
read the
doesn't read
production.
Discord. Yeah.
You need to read our Discord, Brandon.
I've been busy. I've been playing Slay the Spire on my Surface Go. It plays it natively, and it's a freaking addicting game.